Hello, friends, and welcome to this House of Venus and to this reading, Love Crimes, What You Stand Accused of. Now, I do say it at the beginning of each pile, but just because it bears iterating and reiterating, this is not a reading for the faint of heart. This is a reading for the people who are ready to get to work on what it is that they have done wrong against love or in love in order to align themselves to a more elevated, more concentrated, truer form of love. Now go on and pick your pile, 3 of them here. If I will return to this topic, there will be more options. If nothing here hits, there will be more options for you in the future. Go ahead and pick your pile when you're ready. Timestamps down below in the description. I'll see you at your reading. Okay, so I know I'm saying it in the intro, but just so it's very clear, by watching this reading, you are agreeing to accept the harsh truth that's coming through. The reading is called Love Crimes, What You Stand Accused of, and it's all about, what I just said, about it being the crimes we've committed against love. So this isn't meant to be a comfortable reading, but it is a reading that is meant for us who need it to help us address what it is that we need to kind of address within ourselves in order to progress in love, whether it's in our endeavors to love better or to find it, whatever the case, whatever our journey to and in love is all about. These readings are meant to help clear what's standing in our way, what crimes or what dark aspects of ourselves love or kind of stand in the way of love blossoming in a healthy and abundant way, basically. So this one's harsh. And I mean, it's the first pile that I've done. I did one for myself and that was a slap to the face. So I did know that these readings are very heavy and this one is very heavy. So if at any point you feel like this is a little too much to handle or, it's a little too hot, click off, go do something else. Don't come back here until you're ready to receive it. That's just as clear as I can be about it. Also, I mean, this is a tarot reading online. Take what is like true for you, but don't allow for me to make up truths for you. Any tarot reading has to be a confirmation for what you already know, and I should be nothing more than a physical confirmation. I mean, as physical as an online video can be. And a physical confirmation of like what you already know. There should really be nothing new stated here. You should already know what crimes you've committed, and this should really just be like, oh, that's what we're talking about. That's what's standing in my way. So now that I've given this whole disclaimer, last disclaimer, it's a tarot reading on YouTube, so it is for entertainment purposes only. And what that means is this isn't like a consultation with a life coach on what you should do next in your life. You should take nothing here as like a decision. I shouldn't be making decisions for you. Like, you are in charge of your life, and part of that being in charge of your life is clicking off if this isn't for you, clicking off if you can't handle it, coming back when you're ready, and or leaving it all if it just isn't for you. Because sometimes that can happen. I mean, there's only 3 options here. We're only going to be talking about 3 different types of love crimes that one can go through. I'm going to repeat this reading, so maybe later on we'll have a reading that's for you. And, just be really honest with yourself is all I'm asking. But okay. All of those disclaimers aside, let me get a drink of water. I'm seeing here, there's 3 separate camps. So you're going to have to decide. I mean, you'll know which one you are. You're either part of Camp A, where you have no kids. Camp B, where you have a Camp A, no kids, and single. No commitments whatsoever. Camp B has a full blown commitments. You're with someone and there are kids. Doesn't necessarily have to be that there are kids as well. But there's definitely at least a commitment, a relationship that you are committed to. And it could be that there are kids involved in that scenario. And Camp C, no relationship but kids. So like you have a baby mama or a baby daddy or whatever the terminology for that is where you're from. There's no relationship between you and the other parent of that child, but there is a child involved. And children are coming through, that there is a child is coming through very heavily. But I do understand that not everybody who clicks on this reading is going to have a child or children. And so there's a different interpretation that will apply for all of the child energy that's coming through here for that Camp A that has no commitments, no children, no commitment that they are in. And so the too long didn't watch of this, and I'm just going to put it at the front and, stay if you need the details, is, and this applies to all three camps, is that you wield your beauty, your attractiveness in a way that is going to get you what you want from people that you attract, basically. Whether you're there to some degree you are aware of how your attractiveness benefits you, how it's a privilege that you take full advantage of. And beyond that, there is something about your circumstance that you also use to lure people in. So if you're part of that first camp where you have no commitments, there could be something about you that is very attractive beyond your looks. It could be like you have a very cool job. It could be that you have really cool tattoos. It could be that you have I don't know, like you're really muscular and you look really good. I don't know, there's just something in addition to the way that you look that makes you super attractive and that also makes you a little bit exclusive. So it could be that you're very busy and you're very successful in your job, and so you don't really have time for relationships, and that makes you super attractive beyond how attractive you look. And if it's not like a cool job that keeps you busy, you could just be inherently the type of person you're not very social. You don't go out of your way to like communicate with people and let people into your life. You might be very selective, and so that level of exclusivity that people feel off of you is very attractive. And if it's not those things and you're part of the second camps, it could be that you use, or it's not that you specifically use your commitments as a way to attract people, but you do recognize the ways in which being in an exclusive commitment does make you attractive to certain people, and you lean into that. And if it's that you have kids, then you lean into that. Like there might be a component of like you being a parent to you attracting who it is that you want to attract. So that's the too long didn't watch of it. You use what you've got, your circumstances, the way that you look, to your advantage to attract and get what it is that you want. Now, this, again, is a reading about crimes against love. And if it was that you were using your beauty and your circumstance to attract partners and cause no damage, because you can do that. You can have fun and be upfront with a person, whatever the case is, and have something in a way that love doesn't view it as a crime. And so that's where that's added part of, there's something about an exclusivity that you take full advantage of, and it hurts people, but it gets you what you want. So again, part of that first camp where it's like, if you're just really exclusive or you're really busy, you use that as a full excuse as to why you can't commit to people, or why you don't follow through with people, where it's like, oh, well, I don't have the time or space for you. Or, you're just not, maybe you're not as harsh as the words I'm about to use, but just to keep it plain and simple, you might in some variation be like, you don't meet my standards. I was gonna say not good enough, but that's just rude. Whatever the case is, you take advantage, you use that exclusivity and you lean into it to not follow through. Maybe even in times when you at some level want to. So the crime isn't just against love herself, it's also against yourself, because you don't even allow yourself the joys to following through with something that has potential, or finding it or seeking it. And if it's that, so whatever, you get my case, where whatever that exclusivity is, you go beyond just using how you look to get what you want. You lean into that whole, you use that whole exclusivity bit as a reason to not follow through. And if it's a marriage and a family, then that one's obvious and people know that, and you like that safety net that it provides, that people know who you are and what you've got going on, so you can't give any more than what you're giving there. And that's like a safety net for you, and that's the crime that we're talking about here. And if it's like just a kid situation, it could be like you use your child and being a parent as an excuse to not follow through and go through it. And let me say, having a kid, I am not a parent myself, so I can only speak from what I've seen others experience, people around me experience as parents. And especially if you're part of that third camp where it's just you're a single parent, however involved that other parent is. It's not that I'm trying to shame you. There's no shame in you like having too much on your plate to handle the relationship or follow through with it. But as it's a crime you've committed, it could be that at some point, if not you do this more than at just that one point, you do or you have used your kid, used being busy as an excuse to not follow through with something that might have had potential. Or you use that as an excuse to not go out and seek it, even though you want it, even though it might be available to you. So where am I getting these, if that's important to you? We have the Three of Wands, which is reversed. In the center, we have the Three of Cups, and we have 3 and 3, and we end up with a 6 of Cups. And the 3 that's reversed is of Wands, which is, Wands are all about like our inner fire. And so I'm interpreting that two ways, where this inner fire being repressed in one way is how, like, if you find attraction to someone, and you find yourself like, oh, I kind of like, on some level you're like, I want to pursue this, but then you fall into that habit, you repress that fire, inner fire, and you don't allow it to kind of like burn and blossom into something that you could maintain and keep going. But another way that I'm seeing it is that you keep your sexual energy on this very confined space where, and this isn't for everybody, but this is just one interpretation that I'm seeing with the Three of Wands, where where it concerns sex, if it doesn't meet your specific criteria or exactly what it is that you want, there's no use of it for you. Like, you're not even going to bother it. So it's kind of like being a selfish lover in a way, where it's all about what you want, and if it's not exactly how you want it, then it's not for you. It's reversed. And what is upwards in the center is the Three of Cups, and cups are all about emotion. And threes, and we have 2 3s, are especially in love readings, are about third party situations. So a fancy tarot lady way of saying being a cheater, cheating on your partner. Especially the Three of Cups, because cups and emotion, even though there might not be any of your emotional matter in these affairs, cups are just in a way about romance anyway. So just like you clinking cups, so to speak, with multiple partners, and the insinuation that goes with drinking with a partner and what comes after. And so what also, like with the Three of Wands reversed being about you repressing that inner energy, and right next to it, the Three of Cups, which is about emotion, it might also be that part of the love crimes that we're talking about that are being picked up here is that you might leave false hope in your partners. You might be lying to some degree of like, you're comfortable saying what it is that you need to, saying sweet nothings for your lovers, so that, they can feel good, or it just, you know what to say. And there might be something about that where you leave these false hopes, you leave these small bits of emotion in your lovers that, like, you know you're not going to follow through on, but that again gets you what you want. And finally, the Six of Cups traditionally is associated with childhood and nostalgia. So not specifically children, but somewhat like childhood. So like ours specifically. But because it's about childhood and nostalgia in the past, it also insinuates children. And I mean, children are depicted usually in the card itself. And beyond that traditional interpretation, again, how I had mentioned earlier, 3 plus 3 and then 6. So, you know, addition, like 1 plus 1 equals 3, like when you make a baby. So addition, creating, and the creation being a card about childhood and children. So that idea of you having kids and you being a parent really coming through. And then especially here at the bottom, we have the father, so a parent. And I'll get to that in a second. But that's what tarot at the center, at the core of this reading of what your crime against love is. That's what it's saying, that you keep your inner fire on a tight leash. You keep your sexual energy within this tight definition. If your lover doesn't meet those things, then you won't pursue it. It might be that you leave false hopes. It might be that you are comfortable saying what it is that you need to say, even though you don't need to follow through. And this idea of creation and kids really coming through. And if it isn't that you have kids, then what this Six of Cups is really talking about, and this applies for all of you, so all camps A through C, it could be that this is something you've been doing since childhood, and not since you were a little kid, but for as long as you've been flirting and been active in the dating scene. It could be that you've been doing that this long, but this is specifically for camp A and B. So A, because you don't have kids, and B, if you don't have kids. What this card is saying in terms of creation is, it kind of confirms what I was getting with that Three of Cups of, like, you do create things in these affairs that you don't mean to follow through on, that you are not going to invest any of yourself in, but that other party is going to have to carry. So half of the party is carrying it, half of the 6-3 is upwards, and your half isn't upwards. So whether it's emotion or those false hopes, you're comfortable in creating something with that person with no intention of following through. Hibiscus over here, beauty and happiness. The quote reading, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever," by John Keats. So really honing in that idea of beauty, your beauty. Before I get to this one, confirmed by the center romance oracle card, which is attraction. And the words that are applied to this card, it reads, "You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully." Oh, and I'm sorry, you couldn't see hibiscus. Let me show it here to the camera so the light doesn't show it. Beauty and happiness. Yes, beautiful. Okay. And the romance oracle card here reading, "You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully." But this is a love crime reading, so we're not fully taking this as what it's saying. Here in the center, attraction, you weaponize attraction. You don't just use your powers of attraction to get to, like, the one person that you like and you want. You weaponize it. You revel in the fact that you pull, that you are so magnetizing, and that people want you, and you take advantage of that. You pluck from that what you want with no, it's going to be varying degrees for all of you, but like very little to no consideration for those other parties. Here at the end with Coreopsis, always joyful. The quote reading, "Write it on your heart that every day is the best day of your year." So always joyful. I got this idea of, like, because we can't always be joyful. The truth of the matter is that life is hard, and even when it's good, there's going to be some aspects of it that we just have to sit with and be sad about, whether it's something within our lives personally, or just the state of the world, or someone we care about. There's just, you're not going to escape sorrow. You're not going to escape the darkness of it. And so this coming up in love crimes, always joyful, I was getting that interpretation of how you, despite what you're doing and, the beauty and the attraction and, the false hopes that you're leaving with these other parties, when they come to collect and they might even confront you of like, you gave me these false hopes, you just meet them with this always joyful energy of like, oh, like, it's not that serious. It was never that serious. And it's not that you specifically do those things, but it's like where, like, if you cared about these people or this person, you would validate their pain by sympathizing. And, when you care about someone, I mean, we're all different, but to some degree, if someone you care about is hurt and you caused it, it's not going to feel super good. And this always joyful card here says that, like, even when you see that you're hurting someone, even though that's happening, you're always joyful. To you, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting what I want. I'm good with it. Now, before I continue, and I'm almost done here with this half, but we're going to get into the verdict and redemption and all of that, that you're here receiving this message and that you saw a reading that was about your crimes against love and you haven't clicked off yet, you obviously understand that this is a problem and that to some degree, it's, again, different for all of you, you are ready to address this. And that's all I really want to say about that. I don't want for all of this to just be me berating you, because that's not what this is at all. And it's not me, it's love itself that we're asking these readings for. So it's not like, it's always love. Like, you are here because you want to heal and you want to do better and you want to acquire true love to its most purest capacity. And I mean, maybe purest isn't the right word because I don't like, purity as a concept, but you get what I'm saying, like at its most condensed and concentrated form, strongest form. So, hugs, no judgment. Like I said, I did my own love crimes. We're not going to get into that because, that's my business. But none of us are perfect, okay? Even me, who, like, I'm tapped in. Like, no, again, none of us are perfect. It's okay. We all commit crimes. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. Let's continue. We have the last two cards here, the priest and the father. Now, yeah, sure, the father is where I was getting, it was kind of a confirmation of that, like, parenthood type of energy. But what was really funny to me was how the priest and the father are like two names you could give for the same person, like, a priest at a church. Especially within Catholicism, it's like you call them father. And that's where I was getting that idea of exclusivity of, like a priest and a father, religious father, at least as I understand it, they can't have physical relationships. I know that's true for Catholicism. I don't know if there's like other forms of Christianity where like they can. I'm not super well versed in that. But that's what I was getting from this priest and next to the father. It's like, of all the cards in the Oracle of the Roses deck, to get the two that like give off that energy of, like a priest, of something that's exclusive. And so yes, marriage, like a priest officiates a marriage, but a priest is also exclusive. So again, how that applies to all three of the camps of that exclusivity that you lean into, that you kind of weaponize and use to keep yourself safe from pursuing these things, or whatever it is that you use it as. So again, to kind of bullet point, you weaponize your magnetism, your attractiveness to get what you want. You do have a tendency, and again, not all of these have to apply to you. I'm just bullet pointing what I've said. You may or may not have a tendency to be very careless, very inconsiderate with the parties that you pursue. And you lean into the exclusivity that you kind of have in order to keep yourself safe from pursuing anything or anyone, regardless of whether it is that you want them or not. So yeah. That's, whew. Let's take a breather. I'm gonna go ahead and drink some water, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put these cards out of frame so that we can bring in the last half, or the last bit, which is the verdict, what it is that you're paying for these crimes against love, and what redemption may look like. Because it isn't always possible, but given, again, kind of like what I was saying, I mean, if you've, I don't know what the damage is that you've done, so let's just leave it at that, and we'll see what comes up. But okay. Okay, so I had to cover up the Empress and the Star. Of course, we get two of the cards that have nudity in them. So that's why they're covered. But okay, the verdict, what you are paying for it. Well, okay, so the Emperor next to the Empress reversed. It's gonna be different for all of you, okay? If it is that you're single and uncommitted, so camps A and C, A being single and uncommitted, no children, no one, basically. Camp C, no, you're not in relationship with anybody or the parent, but you do have a kid. Whichever party you belong to, or sorry, whether it's camp A or C, why you're single isn't simply because, you pushing people away. It's also that, divinely, you aren't being allowed access to union with someone, or rather to the union that you want. So it could be with someone specifically. It could be that there is someone that you really, really, really liked and you were ready to commit to them, but because you have hurt so many people, because of the crimes you've committed against love, that didn't work out for you. And it might have been in a really painful way. If it's not that it's someone specific, it's that if deep down you do want a connection and you want love, until you address these things, it's not going to happen. And that's part of what you're paying for the crimes you've committed against love. So for camps A and C, it's either A, there was someone specific that you wanted to, develop something with, and that didn't happen because of these crimes you've committed. And if it's not with someone specific, it's that you aren't being given access to the union that you want, because of the crimes you've committed against love. Now, if you are part of camp B, where you are committed to someone, you have someone that you're committed to, the Empress reversed next to the Emperor, and these two being the couple of the tarot. One being reversed really talks about that union breaking, especially with how they're coming up right next to each other. That's not a prediction. It's not a curse on your marriage or connection. It's just what's being said here is if you aren't careful, and this isn't me being like, be careful, bro, don't get caught. No, because this is all divinely guided. If you're tuning into tarot readings, it's because you are divinely guided. And so what's being said is where you're being guided to, if you keep this up, if you keep following this road, is when that will break your union. And I'm not going to make any predictions. It could be that your connection, the person you're in a connection with, finds out about it, or it could just very well be that the connection you have there just dissipates for whatever the reason as a result of these crimes you're committing against love. So that's what these two first cards are saying here. The Eight of Swords reversed at the smack center of this reading. Okay, so part of what the Eight of Swords reversed traditionally means outside of this reading, just in any other, like out by itself, the Eight of Swords reversed indicates a willful blindness to something. Especially when that something is a solution to a problem we're having, and especially if that problem we're having is something we created ourselves. It doesn't always have to be that we created ourselves. Within the context of this reading, it kind of is. But again, outside of this reading, traditionally, it's just there's a solution and we aren't acknowledging it, even though it's within our grasp to acknowledge it. Here in the context of this reading, what I'm interpreting from the Eight of Swords reversed, it's going to be different for all of you. For Camp B specifically, if you're in a commitment, it could be that this truth of the affairs that you're having is well within sight. You keep it within sight, within grasp of, basically you're sloppy. You aren't as careful, as considerate as you could be of the person you're in a connection with. And you kind of leave it within their grasp. And for whatever reason, it could be that they're giving you a lot of grace by ignoring it, or they just really genuinely don't see it because of how they feel about you. Whatever the case is, it's there within grasp. And so attached to this Empress reversed, it could be supporting that idea of like, it's only a matter of time before that truth is grasped, and then what happens. But okay, if it isn't that you are in a commitment, actually, even if you are in a part of a commitment, this is for all parties. I was just trying to give that interpretation of it. Part of what you're paying for the crimes you've committed against love is confusion, is a lack of access to the solutions to your problems, and those solutions being within your grasp but unattainable to you. So to return to Camp B, if you're in a commitment, whatever the circumstances of that commitment is, it could be that the solution to what you want, and this is just an example, doesn't have to be true for you. Let's say you want out of this commitment. You recognize that you would be a lot happier being able to pursue freely what it is that you want, but there's something keeping you in that connection. Whatever it is, there's something that, freedom is right there. You could just get up and go, but there's something keeping you there, for whatever reason. That's kind of one of the things that I'm getting from the Eight of Swords reversed. And, for Camp A, if you have like no commitments, that example of the job is coming back, where it's like you could want to then heal and do things, pursue something so that you can have a true love. But part of the punishment is you not having access to that. So like things coming up in your circumstances to prevent you from pursuing something, real and developing something, a true love. And if it's, part of Camp C where you have a kid or kids, that could be part of it, where you're always going to be kind of kept busy with that or with other things that will prevent you from pursuing something and develop it into something that could be real. So basically the gist of it is, from the Eight of Swords reversed, is you can see love and you can see that you want it, and it might even be within your grasp, but you don't have access to it, for whatever reason. The star reversed, the star upwards, is all about hope and vulnerability. And so reversed, answering the question of punishments for your crimes. Two ways to interpret it. A, it could kind of echo what we were seeing earlier with the Empress reversed, where any hope you might have for something to develop will not blossom. Again, because you're paying for these crimes. And before I continue, let me just reiterate, because this isn't all about berating, pay your debt, answer for the crimes you've committed, and face these consequences of your actions. And only through that, only in facing it and addressing these things and doing what it is that you need to do, to move forward honestly and address these crimes and change so that you're not committing these crimes anymore. Once you start doing that and abiding by that and change in a way that you are no longer that criminal, then love will become available to you. And that's the point of these readings. That's why we're tuning in, to find out what these crimes are so that we can address these things and find and attain true love. So part of what you're paying is hope not being able to flourish anywhere that you might find it. A second way to interpret that is it might not be a specific hope like in that first interpretation, but there might just be a sense of hopelessness that starts to permeate through the layers of your life. This kind of does indicate a little bit of depression, maybe anxiety, just a state of mind that does cloud over your days. So it could be both interpretations. It could be just one of them. Take what resonates. Take what's yours. The Chariot reversed at the very end very clearly is saying a lack of progression. You not being able to proceed until you successfully address what it is that we're talking about here. The Chariot upwards is all about the victory, the success and glory that comes from successfully maneuvering two difficult, if not polar, opposite energies. So basically creating harmony where there is none, creating order where there is chaos. So until you create order from this chaos, there will not be any progression, there will not be any glory, there will not be any movement forward from this. So really nailing that point home of address these crimes, pay the price basically for what it is that you've done, accept these things, these connections you don't and won't have access to, accept that because of these crimes and because, if it's true for you, the commitments that you have, for those reasons, you can't accept the truth. Accept that what it is that you are doing and have done, or that are doing or have done, is a crime. You are hurting not only the parties involved, but also yourself by continuing to treat yourself as this person who is hurting other people and depriving yourself of something real and true. Address this hopelessness, whether it's lost hope with someone specific or lost hope with anything. And it doesn't even have to be like, romantic. The star reversed could be saying like part of the consequences you paying for the consequences of this is like you having hopes for, I don't know, something unrelated, where it's like you could have had hopes for like a business or, I don't know, just an endeavor that you are hopeful about, and then that doesn't pan out, and that is part of what you're paying for these crimes. So again, address those things, address that hopelessness, if that's what it's about, that permeates the layers of your life, that mental state that we were talking about. And only in doing that will you then be able to access progression and access, because in addressing this chaos, there's a strength that comes to going through your tribulations, going through your trials, and not resisting them. And that transformation that's going to happen in you addressing these problems and you changing, that's what's going to gain you that strength, the capacity, the skill set necessary to create order from all of this chaos and progress to your true love. What does redemption look like for you? Snake, scythe, crossroad. Fair. Okay. Snake, I mean, clean and simple. It's anything that's treacherous, anything that's a danger. So that's you. You are a danger to not only yourself, but to the parties that you involve yourself with. Scythe is cutting things away, ending it, killing it, basically. Crossroad is choices. So these options that you maintain, everything that we were talking about in that first bit, whatever party you belong to, how you maintain options, you don't commit to just one thing. So scythe, straight in the center, is you putting an end. What does redemption look like? You killing your snake-like tendencies and your tendencies to maintain options. If you want a commitment, well, guess what? That looks like commitment. That looks like one person and honoring them. And it's not even just like, oh, love is only about honoring that other person. No, you honor that person because in doing so, you also honor yourself. You honor that person because in honoring that person and loving them in a legitimate way, you create a loving and safe, vulnerable, intimate environment, and you get to benefit from that environment by creating it with that person. So in order for you to benefit from the glory of love and intimacy, you need to kill the parts of yourself that don't allow for those things to blossom. And what those things are, again, your snake-like tendencies and your tendencies to maintain options, keeping your doors open. That needs to end. And what also needs to happen is you addressing these things that we were talking about, the hopelessness, accepting what needs to be accepted, in order to gain this true love. Now, again, one last time before I say goodbye, I just want to say, like, congratulations, because you're here, because you are to some degree, wherever you're at, you are ready to accept what it is that you've done, what it is that you've caused, and to whatever degree you're at, you're ready to accept the consequences of it. And what's wonderful about that is that in doing so, you are declaring yourself stronger than most, which is always nice, because most people will just stay in delusion and keep their head up their ass, hurting people until the very end, and leave a legacy of nothing but pain behind. And you are saying in some way that isn't what you want for yourself. So that is worthy of mentioning and giving you a pat on the back for, regardless of whatever crimes you've committed or what pain you've caused, that you're here and you are to some degree ready to address it and change it. That's great. And it's fantastic and it's divine. So I want to just say that before I sign off. I am wishing you all the best. Virtual hugs. Bye. I'll catch you on the next one. All right. Hello, pile 2, to your love crimes reading. Now, before we get into the reading, I do want to say a couple of disclaimers about it. Now, these are not for the faint of heart. If you are someone who is not currently in a space to take on some brutal truths, this reading isn't for you, because it's love crimes. It's what we have done against love, what we stand accused of. And the purpose of this reading is to address these things for the purpose of us clearing any blockages on our way to attaining a true love, one that is unhindered by these things that we have done against love. Basically paying our debt to love in order to set everything right and be able to attain it at its most concentrated, strongest, at its most elevated form. And because of that, because it is about things that we've done wrong, these readings aren't very comfortable. The first one was brutal. The one that I did for myself personally was a slap to the face. So again, just if you aren't currently in the space to handle something like that, if as the reading progresses, you just feel free to click off if you need to, is all I'm saying. Come back to it when you're ready. No shame in not being ready for it right now, but congratulations and kudos for wanting to receive this message anyway. That being said, if any part of this reading isn't true, isn't really hitting the spot for you, so to speak, don't allow for me to make up truths for you. I'm not here to make predictions. I am simply here to shed some light on the parts of yourself that you might not be fully aware of. Inner work. That's kind of what I do with readings. It's not so much about predictions. So if anything that I say here isn't true, don't take it up. Just leave it, because that was for someone else who is going to pick this pile, for whom everything else in the reading or for other parts you have in common with them. So just take what is for you, leave what is not. Finally, just a general disclaimer that since this is a tarot, I mean any tarot reading, whether in person or these general online ones, they are more for entertainment purposes than for any type of advice. This isn't like a session for me to help you give advice, like to help give you advice on any kind of decisions that you have to make. I'm not here to make those decisions for you. I am simply here to confirm for you what you already know, whether consciously or not, to provide confirmations and, again, just concrete any inner knowing that might exist already. So again, if it isn't something that, if something I say just outright isn't true, it's not for you. Leave it, move on. Now, this is the first time that I'm doing this reading, so there's only 3 options now. If none of the options are really hitting, that is okay. I'm going to repeat this reading later, and maybe one of those will be for you. There's only 3 topics that we can discuss during this upload, so maybe your crime, if it isn't here, it'll be in the next one. That's true for any reading, but I just felt like saying it. Now, with all of that being said, this first portion of the reading is about the crime itself, and the second portion, which is this over here, is the verdict, what you're paying for these crimes, and what redemption might look like. So, to keep it, the too long didn't watch, is that despite you being ready for it, you meet all of the criteria for being ready for love. You won't make any moves towards it. You stay safe within the bounds of your comfort zone, and there is a little bit of light as to why it is that you stay here, but the general sense of the reading is that your crime against love is that you do not take advantage of it. And it's maybe that's not the right way to word it. You don't make any active steps towards it. You might want it, you might long for it, you might even tell yourself that you do make actions towards it, but the actions towards you might be something like you just thinking about it and hoping that you wishing for it hard enough is just going to make it happen for you. Something about you definitely not leaving the comfort of your own area and your safe zone to attain love. And the thing about love, and really anything in life that's worth having, is that it requires risk. And so your crime against love is that you won't make any effort towards it, you won't take any risk for it, but you still claim to want it. Now, what I meant with the criteria, you meet all the criteria, kind of what the imagery that I'm getting is how after you've had some type of medical procedure or something to do with like you not being well and then doctors helping you make you well again, after that, there's like these checkups that you have to do, and then the doctor lets you know, like, okay, you're looking all good, or you're not, and we have to maintain treatment or whatever it is, or you're looking all good and you're given the all clear to resume your life as it was before it was that you went in for your treatment for whatever it was that ailed you. And so where you're at this point is that you've been given the all clear by love, by divinity, by the universe, whatever it is that you answer to. Even if that is just yourself, you've been given the all clear. You know that everything's safe. You have done the healing necessary to heal what it was that put you out of commission, so to speak. And you're in a really strong place where you have enough within you to give to yourself and to respect yourself. And you have it now in you to welcome someone else into this energy, should they meet your criteria. But that's a different criteria. Those are your standards. But the criteria that I'm talking about here is the criteria that for you to get back out there and experience these things again. There is also an indication that there might be, whether just one or many, offers, and if not offers of love to you, then possibilities, however aware of that you are. And you would rather see those things as friendships, or even if you haven't been made aware of those offers and even if you're not aware of those offers, if they were to become available to you, you, out of fear of stepping out of your comfort zone, would rather steer those offerings towards friendship and something more safe for you, rather than pursue it into the risky zones, past that safe area, into the risky zone of, romance and putting yourself out there. And you also do kind of, again, whether it's that you are aware of these offers and you just ignore them, or you're not aware of them and you do put an effort into not being able to see how people feel about you, how people look at you, there is very clearly this energy of you staying in your comfort zone and having very little interest or putting very little effort towards seeing past your comfort zone and venturing out there to gain love. Now, the specifics of where I'm getting these messages. At the front and center, we have the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is all about rest and repose and taking a pause from the movement of life, from the progress of life. Now, life doesn't stop progressing just because we stop. The Four of Swords is an energy of us moving into a quiet and tranquil space away from the hustle and bustle of life, in order to reflect, in order to rest, to recuperate if need be. And before it is the world, so before I get to the world, the Four of Swords is where I was interpreting that rest, that comfort zone that you're staying within, even though you've gained everything that you have needed to gain from this rest and repose, which is that healing and the progression that you've done internally. And the time has now come to exit your cocoon, and the Four of Swords is that cocoon. The world, which, the world literally speaks of everyone who is in us out in the world, but symbolically in tarot, the world is a conclusion of a cycle. Before the Four of Swords indicates, the world outside of the comfort zone that's being referred to by the Four of Swords, and how it lies outside of this comfort zone, but also that cycle, that conclusion that's happened that you're kind of lingering at. It's kind of like in fantasy stories, there's a happily ever after, and there's only one because a book can only end once, right? But in real life, there's only one ending, but like there's several cycles. Like our lives are arguably not arguably, but they're longer than books, right? Books are finite, and so is life. But I hope you get what I'm trying to say, where a narrative, a fiction, a story is like one cycle, maybe a handful of them, while life is all of our cycles, right? And so the world here next to the Four of Swords, it's kind of like you're very comfortable with how this last cycle concluded, because where that ended is where you're at now, comfortable, at peace, healed. And so that's the ending of the last cycle you were in. And so you are staying there because that's the best possible outcome. You worked hard for it. And, side note, I think it's okay that you've lingered here, I think that just demonstrates how much it is that you've healed. And, give yourself grace for lingering here as long as you have. Like, don't be too mean to yourself about that. But the cards and yourself even are telling you that like the time has come to now step away from that, because just because you are stepping away from that ending, the ending was you, who you are today, and that's not going to end just because you're accepting new cycles. You get to take who you have become with you into these new cycles and put into action, put into practice everything you've learned. So again, the world is indicating the world outside, like everybody else that you're staying away from, the world that you are refusing to get back into, while also indicating the cycles that have ended that you're lingering in and refusing to step into the new cycles that are waiting for you, calling your name. The Queen of Wands upwards she's a master of Wands energy, and here it's about sexual energy. But, you know, even though you may be asexual, you may be a demisexual, and if you don't know what that means, it's someone who needs a romantic, or maybe not a romantic, but some type of connection in order to enjoy sex with someone. And so regardless of whether you are tapped into sexual energy or how, it doesn't matter. What the Queen of Wands here is picking up on is your desire, how it exists in all of us, however we relate to that desire. And what I mean by that is our sexual preferences, orientation, all of that. And so the Queen of Wands upwards, she's someone who is proud of that energy and who wields it intentionally, and she's hot. She's someone who wields what she wants and, you know, what she looks like and what she can do as in terms of seduction in order to get what she wants. And that doesn't necessarily, I don't mean to say that that's all that the Queen of Wands is, just within the context of this reading, that's what I'm picking up on. She's here referring to your desire for love, for connection, for that fire energy to, you know, burst and, you know, really have a way to spread and kind of consume you, to not be too dramatic about it, but, you know, not in a bad way, but just, you know, the heat of passion, so to speak. And reversed, it's you stifling it. It's what you've gained through this healing and that happily ever after that we were talking about with the world. It's the mastery of wands. You have a mastery over these things that you maybe didn't have in the past. Maybe in the past what got you into trouble was that heat of passion, was you not knowing how to wield that passion properly. And the thing is that who you've grown into today is someone who can wield that properly, but maybe out of fear or whatever the case is, you're stifling that energy. You're not stepping into it. It's almost like what you've gained through the inner work that you've been doing, and this healing is that throne of the Queen of Wands, but you're not stepping into it, again, out of fear or whatever the case is for you. It might not be out of fear so much as just the comfort zone of where you ended up and just that being a good thing and you not wanting to step away from that. Friendship and gratitude, the tulip card here, is where I was getting that point, or that part of you want to steer any offers towards, you know, friendship because that's safe for you. And rainbows and messages here, how those exist. Messages, the quote reading, when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. So basically, when you need direction, look for messages that guide you, is basically what I get from that quote. And here in the context of love crimes, it's that these messages, this guidance through this confusion that you're feeling, it exists. It's there for you. Love itself is trying to guide you towards success, and you ignore it because, you know, these messages are here next to this reversed energy. And so that's why I was getting that. Stay optimistic about your love life. The wording reads, positive thinking and faith will bring you romance. I'm not really picking too much up from the wordings here at the bottom. What I was really getting was how the imagery, basically, how there's this offering up, whether that's you, you know, ready to offer up what you have to someone, or whether it's, you know, someone or people in your life, like trying to offer you something and you just not, you being up here just like in bed in your comfort zone, like, you know, I can't accept that right now. Or if it's you who's offering, you offering from this comfort zone where, you know, people can only come into your comfort zone once they know you and, you know, they really want to step into that space, and they can only really want to step into that space once they get to know you, and they can't get to know you if you're not putting yourself out there. So that idea of, you know, you sitting and just thinking about it really hard and hoping that that's enough to get it to come to you, not really how it works. And so finally, the heart and the healer, these two cards talking about that inner healing that you've done, how your heart has really blossomed out of this healing that you've done. And all of these cards here basically talking about all of these things coming at you and, you know, becoming available to you. And you just here in this Four of Swords energy, staying in bed, fully rested, fully healed and ready to take on all of this, but not wanting to get out of bed to take on all of these things. And so that is your crime against love, that you claim to want love, you sit there and you pine for it, but you don't do anything to step towards it. despite there being possibilities available to you, if not full-on offerings, or an offering to you for it. And so, yeah, that is your crime against love. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put these cards aside and put these other cards here so that we can get into what it is that you're paying for these crimes against love and what redemption might look like, which, let's be honest, I'm going to just go ahead and just call it. I think it's going to be, just something about a call to action, but if we could get specifics to something, let's just get into it. All right, so very clearly, what the cards are saying, and to answer the question of what it is that you're paying for your crimes against love. Now, Okay, so what the cards are saying to answer the question of what it is that you're paying for your crime against love, which again is you not taking any action towards love despite wanting it. Two things are coming through, and the first thing is true for all of you. And the second thing I'm going to say might be true for some of you because it's more of like something that may have happened or is happening or has the potential to happen. So the first interpretation of these 5 cards is answering the message of like for all of you in a more general way. And the second interpretation for the 5 cards is kind of like a story I'm being told as to something that might have happened, might be happening, or could happen to you, which again might be a consequence of how you've dealt with love. So the first interpretation, point blank and simple, is atrophy, where if when someone's in a coma, I don't know if you've seen, I think they showed in both Kill Bill movies. Fuck Tarantino, for putting her through all of that. Regardless, if you've seen the movies, when she wakes up from the coma and she can't walk because it's, atrophy, she hasn't used her legs in so long that her brain doesn't really have access to, the ambulatory part of it where like she's able to walk and she has to remind herself, so to speak. And in the movie it's that way, just physical therapy in real life for that. The point is, if you're not making use of your heart, of the parts of you, that passionate energy that we were talking about with the Queen of Wands, if you don't make use of those things, it's going to get harder and harder for you to use those things. And a consequence of that is that you might then choose wrong because okay, so one example that I'm getting given with this first interpretation is you spend so long in this comfort zone that later on down in life, when you wake up and realize I've wasted all this time, I should have been looking for a partner all this time for whatever reason, you grow desperate and you just accept the first person that comes your way because you never pursued it. You never gave yourself the practice over this time to learn what it is that you want in a partner and learn what you like and you don't like and to get to know someone. And because of that, for whatever reason that desperation comes through, you might not choose as wisely as you would have if you would have gone out and explored and gained the wisdom to wisely pick a partner. So again, for everybody, what you're paying is atrophy. You might not be super aware of it now, but over time, you might come to realize, again, honestly, this doesn't really seem like something you'll be super aware of until it's too late. Because that's kind of what atrophy is. It kind of sneaks up on you. It's not, it has to happen over time. It's something gradual, something that you normalize. So a lack of movement and the consequences of that. So, and then that first card, the 4 of Swords, was someone in bed. So, that lack of movement. And so you growing stiff in a way that you kind of forget how to move in love, in relationships, in connection, in romantic connections. The second interpretation, the kind of instance that I was given, again, could be true whether it was in the past for you, it could be happening, it might happen in the future. Where, here, let me show you these upwards so you can see the reversals. And then, so the Knight of Wands is slow movement, slow intentional movement. Think of a farmer who is constantly moving every day, waking up at the same time, has all this work to do, but it's all for a purpose. Like, he plants at this time and in this space because he knows that at some given time it's gonna sow a certain type of crop, and then he's gonna harvest that, and then that's not the only thing he's doing all day. Like, maybe after he plants in the afternoon, he's gonna go maintain some other crop. And so, like, slow intentional movement for the purpose of gaining something big. The Two of Pentacles, choices, or maintaining something difficult, maintaining, like, multitasking and maintaining that multitasking, again, for the sense of efficiency, for the sense of just keeping things up. Something that is taxing, though, something that does take an effort to maintain. So slow intentional movement and something that does take an effort for you to maintain. The Fool is a choice. Kind of like in the first half, there was a refusal to move into new cycles. The Fool is the opposite of that. The Fool is full jump, full steam ahead into that new cycle, jumping head first into new cycles. So although the movement is slow and intentional, it's because this is what you want to do. You're full steam ahead towards this thing that you're moving towards. And what it is, it's something that you're fired up about. So this could be a relationship. This could be someone that may be in the past or you're currently pursuing, or you might in the future pursue someone who gets you into this King of Wands energy. So we had the Queen of Wands in the first half. Now we have the King of Wands. So slow intentional movement that takes an effort to maintain, that you are full speed ahead towards because it really motivates you, whether it's like you're attracted to it or it just really fires you up. The point is you're moving full steam ahead towards it. And the final result is, I mean, just look at him. He doesn't look super happy. He has all of these three things, and although more things are coming in, it weighs so much on his mind that he doesn't even have space for this new thing, this new blessing that's being offered to him. Or I'm saying him because it's a masculine figure here, but you. So choose, not like putting in all this effort where in the end, after you reap what you sowed, you're not super satisfied with what it is that you got, despite all of this effort that you put into it. And the thing about the Fool is that it does denote a leap of faith, a jump from somewhere into somewhere down below. So you can't really get back up there without effort. And symbolically, the Fool is falling into something you're really not meant to get, falling away from something you're not really meant to return to. So all of this effort into spaces, you really, really got into, and then when you got there, you weren't really fully satisfied. So again, whether that was in the past, happening now, or it'll happen in the future, that is part of what you are paying for you not actively moving towards love. Now, that might not seem super connected. We're like, okay, just because I'm not making active moves towards love, I'm going to make the wrong decision. No, it has to do with that atrophy I was talking about before, where one thing that I'm getting is that because you're in a good space right now to put yourself out there and welcome in new things, for all you know, the right person for you, or a right person for you, is available to you in your space right now. And you not taking action towards them, that's what love takes offense to, where it's like it's right there for you and you're not really accepting it, even though you claim to want it. And so this might play out because that atrophy, you not taking action towards that thing that's available to you, by the time that you are ready to, this is what's likely going to transpire because of that atrophy. This might be currently happening, where you might be putting a lot of effort towards something that really gets you fired up. And on some degree, because of how taxing it is, you do recognize, or you are worried that this might not be worth it in the end. And these cards are kind of saying, well, because you're so fickle and you're not so gung-ho, I mean, here we are getting that gung-ho energy, right? But in the first half, we weren't. So it might be that, like, you might have squandered something in the past, and because of that, this is kind of happening now this way. If this is currently happening, and if it might happen in the future, take this as kind of just a heads up. And it's not saying that what you're pursuing or what you might pursue is doomed. It's just that you do the reflecting necessary on why you're so afraid of getting yourself out there, why you think you're above putting yourself out there. And again, there's nothing wrong with taking the necessary time to heal. But the point is, and it was very clearly said in the first half of the reading, is that you have done all the necessary work that you need to do for yourself in order to get to the place where you've been meaning to get to, which is a place where you can get back out there. And you not taking advantage of that might lead into a place where, because if it was a past relationship or past relationships that we were talking about here and that you had to heal from, regardless of how good that was or how well that went, and even if it wasn't, the point of those past relationships is that they didn't work out. It wasn't what you needed. It wasn't what you wanted. Whatever the case is that it wasn't for you. And life has more to teach you about love. Love has more to teach you about love. Love has more to offer you in terms of love. And you claim to want it, you call it in, but you don't accept it. That's the crime. And for that crime, something like this might transpire, where you're trying to pursue something and it doesn't really pan out for you. And so, you saw them, they all came out reversed. And when all cards are reversed, it's, I interpret it as like really heavy energy, something that permeates all facets of life and becomes our life, becomes our reality. And so this consequence might permeate beyond romantic endeavors. It might be like into just any endeavor, really, that you start to pursue, that you start to feel confident about, that you start to put full intentional movement and effort towards, might not pan out for you. And again, that's a consequence of how you have squandered the love available to you. So, to move into what redemption might look like for you. I mean, I called it. Hilda in this deck, this is a Lenormand deck, and Lenormand always has a man and woman, or a sir, lady, whatever the point is, male and female figures which in the deck are meant to represent us or who we're asking about. This deck is called the Hilda deck, and they all feature this character, Hilda. I think she's great. I love her. And both the male and female cards in typical Lenormand cards are in this deck, the Hilda card. So there's 2 Hilda cards. It's genderless. That's part of why I love this deck. Well, not genderless because they're both women, but you get what I'm saying. They're both Hilda. There's no man and woman. There's just Hilda. So regardless of whether you're male or woman or wherever you land in the gender binary or outside of it, whatever, you're being represented here by Hilda. Key is an answer, the key that we hold to that locked door. Crossroad is choices, options. Here at the front and center, I mean, you next to the answer, like you have access to this answer. And that's what we've been saying this whole time, is damn well you have overstayed your welcome in this comfort zone. These options, these crossroads, that path towards love. And, with crossroads, it really reiterates what we were getting, where like you have options, whether you're aware of that or not, you have options, you have possibilities. And you might be rolling your eyes and be like, dude, no, there's no one who's interested in me. If you don't think that, it's because you're not putting yourself out there. If you were to put yourself out there, there might be people. No. There will be people who will be interested in what you're putting out there. So put yourself out there. You hold the answer. you hold, like, it's not that like you have to be worried about all of the options picking you. It's not about you having to be worried about, oh, how am I going to attract people? No, you hold the answer, and like it's about you choosing what you want. It's and again, this is just kind of full circle moment where crossroads options is key, is you choosing, you having the answer. So it's not about, oh, how am I going to attract the right partner? You don't know. Just put yourself out there. These options will come to you, and then it'll just be about you simply picking someone who meets your standards. And so, although I got none of that in these cards, maybe that might be part of your work where you kind of need to establish for yourself, maybe in order to prepare yourself for getting ready for love and, putting yourself out there. If you haven't already, work on those standards. Work on a list of like what it is that you want from your partner, physical and non-physical. What is the bare minimum, that you're willing to accept, and what will impress you? And if you feel the need to, like, call divinity into it. Ask for their help in helping you determine how to recognize this right partner for you, and how to determine these standards for yourself. Again, you hold the answer to these options, and the problem isn't at all how to get options. The options are there for you. It's just a matter of you stepping into that space where you can choose from those options. So step up, hun. That is what I've got for you in terms of your love crime. Now, I gotta say thank you, because this was yes, it's heavy, you're comfortable, step out of your comfort zone, but honestly, compared to my own and compared to that first pile, this is very fun to do and very light. So thank you. If you're worried, of where you stand in terms of love crimes, like, this isn't too shabby. Yes, you're insulting love by not accepting what she's offering you. Work on that. But, just to comfort you a little bit, if it helps, you are not the worst criminal out there. But okay, I'm going to leave it there. Much love, hugs. I will catch you on the next one. Bye. All right, pile 3, welcome to your love crimes reading. Now, before we jump into this reading, some disclaimers. The first of which is that these readings are not for the faint of heart. They are a verdict on the things that we've done wrong. And so they're not meant to be lighthearted or easy to hear. They are uncomfortable. And so again, not for the faint of heart. If you aren't currently in a space where you are open to something like that, where right now hearing something non-comforting might not be the best for you, click off. If at any point during this reading you start to get riled up and feeling anything overtly, discomfort should never be ran away from. That's the point of these readings. But if it's too much to handle, click off, okay? Come back when you're ready to receive it. Second thing I want to say is that I do not allow for me to make up truths for you. If I say something during this reading that doesn't hit for you, isn't true for you, but the rest of the reading is, then leave that. That wasn't for you. It was for someone else. This is a general reading for multiple people to come in and pick this specific reading like you have. And so just take what is for you, leave the rest. It's not for you. No big deal. Last thing is all online readings, and really any tarot reading, it's for what at its best terminology is entertainment purposes only. And that shouldn't say that this has nothing for you. It's just that I am not an advisor. I am not someone from whom you should be taking advice. I should not be making decisions for you. Anything that is said during this tarot reading, any tarot reading, should really only be a confirmation of what you already know within you. So again, what isn't true, leave it. It's not for you. If big portions of the reading aren't really hitting for you, then maybe this isn't the reading for you. I will return to this topic and create more options, so there might be something for you in the future. The point being, click off if you need to. Take what's for you, leave what isn't. And again, not for the faint of heart. So just be sure you're ready to receive this uncomfortable message. But the purpose of the love crimes reading isn't just for the discomfort of it, obviously. It's for those of us who are ready to begin the work of addressing these problems, of paying the consequences for what we've done and facing those things in order to gain access to more elevated, more concentrated forms of love, true love. Now, there are a couple of things that I'm seeing here. You're going to have to decide what's true for you. And for either of these interpretations, it could be that you've done this one time or that you have a tendency to do this. Interpretation A is there might be a bit of a domination thing that you have going on, whether that's like going as far as, I mean, I don't want to say as far as, but like on one end of the spectrum, there's like BDSM, where it's a very clear cut and forward type of domination where everybody knows what's going on. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's more of a subtle domination where it might not be so much as like equipment or anything this domination might extend outside the bedroom, is what I'm saying. So I guess those are the ends of the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, it's sexual domination. At the other end, it's just dominating that person and wanting to be in control. So let me just say that is true for everybody. That interpretation, that's your crime against love. Now, let's know that that's the crime against love. Let me not say that you being a dominant person is your crime against love. Before I get to the specifics of how that might have been a crime or what the crime is, the second interpretation is that you have taken advantage of someone, or you do have a tendency to take advantage of people whom you hold a superior position to. Now, if that's not for you, if that part isn't for you, and you're part of that first camp where there is a sense of like you like to be dominant, you like to be in control, it's not that the crime, you being dominant, is a crime. BDSM, that's not the crime. No, of course not. Go on and have your fun, as long as it's all consensual and no one's getting hurt. But the crime here is that someone has gotten hurt, okay? So regardless of where you land on the spectrum, you have hurt someone or people in the way that you practice your domination. That's the point blank of this message, is that someone has gotten hurt, people have gotten hurt in the way that you do things, in the way that you dominate. Now, if it's on the sexual end of the spectrum, it could be that in, a sexual act, or, you practicing those things, you could have physically hurt someone, and then that might have caused like an issue. That could be true. It could be that in you practicing those things, someone else's feelings got hurt. It could be that, right, I guess that's what I was trying to say. On the sexual end of the spectrum, it could be like a physical type of hurt, like where you maybe got too rough or whatever. I really hope this doesn't get taken down by YouTube. Don't report me. We're all adults here, please. And if it's not that, then it's like maybe you are a little too convincing in that domination, that you really let people believe that they're under your wing, so to speak, and that they might believe what you're saying in the bedroom outside of it. If it's on the other end of the spectrum, where you are just dominant with the people that you're in relationships with, that is what has hurt someone. That control, it stifled someone, or it stifles people, and that is the crime that you're committing or have committed against love. Now, if it's that you have or you do take advantage or have taken advantage of someone in a lower position than you, I mean, that in and of itself is the crime. It, whatever the case might have been, whether it's someone younger than you who had less experience than you, or just someone that you knew had feelings for you and you just wanted something physical and you took advantage of that. Whatever the case is, it's you held power. This person didn't, and maybe they did, but the point is that they recognized the power that you held, either in general or over them, and you took advantage of that just to get what you wanted. And that's the crime. Now, where I'm getting these messages from, we have two queens, and like to skip to the end, we have, or to the end of this portion, the ruler. So the ruler and two rulers here. The Queen of Wands is our sexual drive, our sexual energy, our desire. And the Queen of Cups is our emotional matter, our mastery over our emotions, what we feel and what stems from those feelings. And the emotional aspect of you is what's reversed, is what's coming up blocked. And so you don't, either you hold your cards close to your chest or you don't let anybody in. You're more driven by what you want, the Queen of Wands energy, than by what you feel, Queen of Cups. And so maybe on some level you do, you do recognize that this is wrong. That's why you're here at this reading, right? Because you recognize that there's something that needs to be addressed. And so, yeah, that's what this is you're more driven by that sexual energy. And so on the other side, the Page of Wands, queens and kings are at the highest because they're the monarchs. Pages are at the lowest, and so they're kind of symbolic of youth. And so just if it isn't youth and just someone beneath you, pages are the servants to royalty. And so that's where that dynamic of power was coming through. So you're being represented by this queen ruler energy, and the people that you have hurt, or the person you've hurt, is being represented by the page. And the Page of Wands, so that sexual energy, that attraction that exists between you and this other individual or these people, and the advantage that you, or the power that you hold, because where they hold page, the lowest form of Wands energy, you're in a higher position, you're at an elevated position with the Queen of Wands energy. So it could be that it's something that you hold over people, and like that's the crime. With yellow rose, enthusiasm and friendship, the quote reads, "A single rose can be my garden, a single friend my world," was supporting to me the Page of Wands. Because the Page of Wands is reversed, so it's not not someone that's happy, not someone who's being honored here, because the thing is, someone in the position of the queen doesn't belong with someone in the position of the page because of that power dynamic. And so where for you it was just something as simple as sex, or if not that, then just something base, not anything serious, for this Page of Wands, it was this enthusiasm and friendship energy. A single rose can be my garden, a single friend my world. So for you, it was just, you have this whole forest of flowers, and that's your sexual energy and your abundance as queen. And this person, you became their world, basically, is what I'm getting from that quote, to not get too deep with it. Now, this other card, it's funny because I don't do reversals with oracle decks. And I had noticed with because I did pile 2 today, earlier today, and I noticed as I was shuffling it for that pile that there was one single card that was coming up reversed, and I meant to reach in and fix it, but I was like, it doesn't really matter, I'll fix it when it comes up. And the one card that was coming up reversed came up for your reading, and I noticed that, and I was gonna turn it then, but I was like, no, it's okay, it doesn't matter. And when I set them out is when I finally turned it so that it would be upwards, and now I see why it was trying to come up reversed, because this card, it's Magnolia, and it reads nobility and self-esteem. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self. Now, I'm really honing in on that first half. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. And so it coming up reversed is, again, that whole energy I was getting of you feeling, you holding that position of superiority and taking advantage of it. Religious factors here in center, the wording reads, your love life is influenced by your religious upbringing and spiritual path. I haven't been honing in on any of the wordings here in these cards, just more of a vibe. I do want to point out that the imagery, it's kind of like a spiritual halo, but it looks like a crown, to really hone in on that whole ruler queen energy that you have going on. Whether you're male or female, that should be obvious. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Queen energy is just what's coming here to represent you. It doesn't matter what gender you are. What I was getting with religious factors, kind of how in religion, most religions, if not, I mean, I'm not going to say all religions because I'm not a religion expert, but at the very least, Christianity demands almost a complete faith, a complete trust, a complete, for lack of better terminology, and I hope I'm not offending anyone here, but a complete subordination to that religion and to the Godhead. And so that's what I was taking from that religious factors, both the crown and the halo, and also that whole complete subjugation, complete subordination to what is above and dominant. The ruler, again, kind of concreting, anchoring that idea of you maintaining your ruler position. The pioneer, since a pioneer is kind of someone who goes where most don't trek, kind of where I was getting that BDSM energy, that like kinky energy. I hope that doesn't get me banned. You get what I'm saying. Pioneer, just going where most people don't. I was also, since it was right underneath the Page of Wands, it might be that in what you were doing with this person, you took them to places they had never been before. And you may or may not have been irresponsible with that task, where you might have just taken them to that space for your own gain and never really cared or considered how that might impact this person who didn't have that experience and who's going through that for the first time. So yes, this is what I'm getting in terms of what you stand accused of, what your love crime is, what crimes you've committed against love. Let me go ahead and put these cards away, and I'll bring out the next half and we can get into what it is that you're paying for this crime and what redemption might look like. The verdict for your crimes against love. That sounds so dramatic. You get what I'm saying? What you're paying is basically... Okay. We're here, you're here, because love is something that you want. You are here, you haven't clicked off yet, because you are ready to engage with the work necessary to get to a place where you do have access, where you can finally feel like you genuinely do deserve a genuine and elevated love. And that is possible for you. But the thing is, part of what you have to pay as consequence for what it is that you've done is that you are going to have to reject certain offers. Now, the thing, what I'm really seeing here is growth on your part. You're going to really, really align to some sort of elevation, and you're really going to do your work in order to evolve, to progress, to become someone better than what you've been in the past, growing from the hurt that you felt and you've caused, whatever it is, really an elevation, moving forward, moving on up, basically. And in you doing that, you're going to gain this wisdom, this knowledge, if not intuition, that you're going to learn to really rely and depend on. And that once you're there in this place of strength and intuition, and you're really tuned in and committed to your elevation, you're gonna have to go through some people coming through, some love possibilities coming your way, that as you start to get to know them, your intuition will be like, yeah, this isn't for you. And as much as you want it, as long as you've waited for it, part of your journey is to go through the motions with people that are very clearly not meant for you. And part of your journey is really proving whether or not you're going to stick by your guns and stick to your values and everything that you've learned, and honor those things by foregoing what's becoming available to you, or if you're going to abandon those things and yourself in favor of what is available to you. Where I'm getting that from, the elevation comes clear cut from the fact that we have 3 major arcana in a 5-card spread. But specifically the 2 upwards majors, which are the Chariot, which is all about elevating. I mean, from leaving somewhere comfortable and going out in order to grow. And the High Priestess is someone who has access to deep knowledge, deep wisdom, if not full-blown intuition, being tuned into divinity to be able to gain that wisdom. And the 5 of Cups, I'm interpreting here, since 5s is all about challenges and Cups is about emotional challenges. So progressing successfully through emotional challenges, likely what we've been talking about here and other things, and gaining wisdom that you can depend on and rely on. And once you've gained here, these temptations, these lovers options that are reversed, that you are meant to turn your back from if you're going to honor this progress and this work that you've been doing. And you're meant to just ignore those things and forego those things. These 7 of Cups upwards is options, lots of them reversed, and it's you not having access to those options. Again, foregoing them for your alignment, your elevation, your intuition, what your intuition is telling you. What redemption might look like for you. In order for you to gain access to the love that you're looking for, that elevated love, it's going to take a full reliance on that intuition you're forming and gaining right now. Meaning, in order for you to gain true love, it's not going to come easy and clearly. It's not just going to fall on your lap. And when it comes, it's not going to be one of those things that just unfolds naturally. It is going to take work, and it is going to take that you truly trust everything that you've learned. What I'm being told by that is when the right person comes after you've done all of your work and you've paid your dues, you're not going to recognize this person. And in fact, you might at first be like, oh, this person just, I don't want anything to do with them. It might not be that extreme. It's just that you're not like pulled towards them at first glance, but intuitively, that intuition you've been sharpening, shaping up, is attracted to them. And there might, part of that might be you facing that resistance and trusting your intuition about this person, and only in taking that leap of faith that you can only take by trusting your intuition and nothing else, will you gain access to that elevated love. Letter is messages that I'm interpreting here as divine messages. Here with the, they're almost in the same position, letter, and they're holding something that they're reading. So the messages that are coming through from divinity, and that's what will gain you access through this crossroad, which is all about options, choices. But crossroads is also about like a fork in the road. So how to decide through the intuition, the messages that you're getting. And snake, that there is deception here, that deception is a part of your redemption. And so again, there are going to be options that aren't the right ones. And it is going to take that you rely on your intuition to be like, okay, you're not for me. I have to wait for what is. And when your intuition tells you, ding, 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 this is the one, that's when you get to go in, regardless of how you might feel at first. It might be that like the person that you feel an intuitive pull towards, you are attracted to, and you forget everything I'm saying about resistance to it. But definitely there is this sense of there's a snake in the grass. In one of these options that's going to come up, there is deception, and it's going to take a reliance, a full dependence on the intuition you're developing right now to gain access to that elevated love. So make sure you are developing that intuition well, that you're sharpening it as you're supposed to, and that you learn how to depend on it clearly, so that when the time comes and your real true love is presented to you, you won't miss it. My friend, this is what I have for you. This is what you stand accused of in love, what you are paying for it, and what redemption might look like for you. I hope that I had something for you. Best of luck. I will catch you on the next one. Bye.